had a few things scripted out on the video that I wanted to do. I wanted to get a lot farther with my writing goals, and I joined Camp NaNoWriMo to try to give myself that extra push. I'm just basically looking at this point for anything I can do to stay motivated. Now, I'm a really big to-do list maker. I write down goals, and I break down projects, and I write down all of my ideas and how I'm achieve them all the time. I used to take it really personally when everything didn't really work out in my favor, and when I didn't finish my whole chapter in one sitting, or when I couldn't even get enough hours in the day to do all the things that I wanted to do, the things that I loved, and still have room for sleep. Yeah, it used to really get to me. I'd stare at the items on my list and just be horrified at, what am I doing? I've done all this other stuff. Can't even remember half of it, but I've still got all of this stuff to do, and it's been 3 months. What am I doing? So, I'd be aghast at how much that I had that I never achieved. I didn't really have a system for forgiveness, and I was setting way too many goals, which kind of turned into double too many when I switched jobs and I found myself with even less time to sleep and less time to build toward my life goals. Since I started working 12 to 13 hour shifts 5 days a week, it's gotten a whole lot harder. And without having any access to my devices and all the digital stuff that I had gotten to where it really helped me a lot, which streamlined a lot of my activities throughout the day, and I had to shift everything to doing paper. It's pretty much a madhouse trying to do that, especially when you get used to doing everything digitally, and then all of a sudden you have to get to a point where you can't carry that with you. Can't have a smartwatch, can't have, everything that you rely on. It basically threw my whole system that I developed into the garbage. And I had to start over on learning how to reinvent how I was keeping track. I really don't like rewriting things if I don't have to. Copy and paste is pretty much my best friend. I've got a system that I use. It's an app, widget, whatever, website, Trello. That one, I was using that for everything. I actually developed an editorial calendar. I had an art calendar that I was going by, where I was keeping track of customers, sales. You name it. I had it set up for everything, and then everything changed. So, a lot of it, I've kind of had to put things off to the side and just kind of give up on them for a little while. But, I'm getting back to the point where I'm balancing all of those with the way my office is laid out now, the computer, the other devices I have. At home, I can take care of certain things, but as long as I'm keeping track of it, which I have an agenda, I use this thing religiously. You can see I've got sticky notes. I'm a freaking crazy monster when it comes to highlighting and colors and all that. Anyway, I've finally managed a lot of organization, and I've pinpointed most of what works for me as far as the paper agendas and to-do lists and stuff like that goes, things like this. I print a lot of these. I don't know if you can see that well enough, but yeah, highlighting. Yep, I love it. I color code everything. I'm a nerd. Anyway, it still doesn't take away from the fact that no matter what I do, there's never really enough time for anything without sacrificing sleep. It makes what I love to do that much more difficult to accomplish. So, I want to tell you something. You guys need to take care of yourself. Break your projects down. Allow yourself not to have so many goals, especially if you're feeling like you're not getting anything accomplished or completed. Like if you're a big goal setter and you love setting plans and getting everything ready, and you follow through, and then you just start losing your momentum, and then you crash and burn. Sometimes that's because you're setting too many goals, or projects that you didn't break down far enough. You didn't realize all the steps there are. There's plenty of other reasons that it could happen, but a lot of times you just got to do that self-diagnosis, just reanalyze everything and try to figure out what it is that is causing you the little bumps in the road. I know what mine is, and I'm just too freaking stubborn to, I'm trying to change. Just make sure that you allow yourself fun. You have to make sure that you have sleep. Make spontaneous decisions to lighten your load, and then make sure that you reward yourself with like celebratory dinners or going out with friends, or a cold one on a stormy night. Anything that works for you. You got to have rewards, and you got to have rest. That is very important. I can't tell you how many times I've gone without sleep, and then I'm like, oh, I can do it. I'm gonna go to bed tonight. And then I don't, because, oh, I got excited, or I'm going to push through this project. And then the next day I feel like crap. And I will push through at work, and just, it's crappy. It really is. And then by the time I get home, I want to do the same thing all over again and find myself right back in the same boat. One thing that's really important about if you don't get rest, it does affect your health. Most of the time I run on desperation and obsession. It's usually a half and half. So inspiration, when it does hit, it's usually a really nice treat, and I will use up every drop of it when it hits, if not more. I push hard. And then I get lazy when I crash and burn, and I want to do nothing but watch TV and eat junk food. And if you are already, like me, a freaking crazy person, just start taking steps to try to diagnose what's wrong, and then start planning it out, start breaking it down, and then slowly ease yourself into, it's almost impossible just to jump right in and, oh, okay, everything's changed. You'll be able to not only start shifting how you feel all the time, but you'll also start shifting what you're getting done, and your mood will be better too. It's a lot better when you get more rest. Most people require 7 to 8 hours. I've been practicing what's called a polyphasic sleep schedule. Mine's not really a schedule. Mine's more of a random, hectic, kind of catch a few Z's here and there and then keep working. If I can crawl out of bed and not topple over like a drunk person. So, if you stick to no schedule, you'll basically lose precious time to do things that matter on your days off, and then end up with even half the time to enjoy life outside of work or school if you're going to school. Whatever is your main life's goings on. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting my 10,000 words a week, which I have a little banner that I keep up. I'll just post it on my desk somewhere. Right now I've got it hanging off my YouTube videos clipboard that I've been scripting one of my videos with. For this, it's going to take me a lot of willpower, but at least it's on a new chapter, so I can start with fresh, a fresh change of mood or pace or whatever. I love starting chapters. I just, for some reason, like to dwindle off when I'm supposed to finish them. I started keeping a logbook at home with old stuff from my agendas that I completed. Every page I have starts off with a blue label. As you can notice, I've got a bunch of tabs. I've got like 3 different forms that I made. I usually will type it up on my laptop, which is next to my main computer here. And I'll always start them off with a top of the page that'll be like 2016. In the header I'll put like 2016 April, May, June, cover for 3 months, and it'll say finished tasks overview. I don't know if you can see this. I'm trying to show you. I'll have it in blue, and then usually right here, oh, my camera is slow, I'm trying to keep up with, or try not to go too fast for it. I'll usually have a few lines here designated up and down where it'll just be like kind of the overview of what all goes on in the month, and then for the rest of this I'll have like check marks. You don't even have to have the strike through, I've got it on there. But I like to do the capital letters for like the tag of what type of thing that it is that I accomplished, and then I'll either do a dash or whatever, and then I'll put out a short description of what it is exactly that I did. So those are my monthly ones. I've got one that is a accomplishments only, like the really important things that I really need to be proud of. I've got one of those that I usually keep. It's usually the first one that's under the tabs, and it's basically a short version of the most important milestones. Like, I'm remodeling a kitchen, just very small things at a time, saving up, wasting a bunch of money, and then throwing it all in there and doing it myself to actually, overall save money. But that's one of those types of things where it's something we needed a lot more cabinet space in our kitchen. And whenever we bought this house several years ago, it did not have adequate storage. So I had to rip down the cabinets. There was only two of them, two of the small short ones to take off the wall, and then two of the long short ones to take off the wall, and that was about it. So we got like one more set that's set in where they framed it in and drywalled over the top half of it that could have had cabinets. But to be able to have a easily cleaned kitchen and easily functioned, you have to have storage. So that was one thing and I never had the tools to do it. So over the years, I've been slowly working toward getting the tools, getting the stuff that I need, designing it, building it, staining it, and then installing it. And I've got some of it on my Instagram page on, it's a 7 Blood Fires, my handle on Instagram as well. If you're ever curious to see what I've done with my office or my kitchen or whatever, I mean, it's not much, but most of it I've done myself. So for that, I'm really freaking proud of it, and it will only get better over time. But basically, what I'm saying about with the agenda is, or this old agenda log, is it will help you to see the things that you've overcome, and also, well, I did this and I did that, and usually like my tab colors on here, I usually have the 3 colors. The green or the blue, which it alternates depending on the year. I usually have those at the very top of the page whenever you close the binder. That will usually mark, it's a blue page printed out with the year on it, and I'll have that on the top. Well, on the sides, I have the accomplishments, important milestones, and then the actual finished text overview. And a lot of them, they're just broken down different ways. Anything that's in red that I write, those are usually important things, or things that occur every year that I need to keep track of. So that really helps me on not only an inspiration basis, but also, I mean, I keep logs because I'm a nerd, I guess. I don't know. It's just a compulsion. I guess it's OCD. But I don't know. It does help me. If you are overwhelmed, I do have a tip to offer that can help with feeling like you're never really accomplishing anything, like you're just spinning your wheels in place. My husband has dealt with that for a really long time. He's never really had any like major goals or anything he really wanted to do with life, because he grew up with dyslexia, and he had some people, I mean, his family was great to him, but he had some people back in school when he was a kid that told him he would never he would never achieve anything in life, and because he had dyslexia, he was a special needs type of person that would never ever amount to anything. And he didn't know that he could go to college, that people with dyslexia succeed regardless of, even if it's more difficult for them on certain levels. I mean, you just mix up your letters and stuff. It makes reading difficult. So he never really fell in love with reading, and he never fell in love with goal setting, and he just wanted to do the things that he loved because it made him feel better, and that's awesome. Everybody deserves that. But I've been working with him on it, and he's slowly getting to a point where he's starting to be like, look, I did some stuff. Cool. That's freaking awesome. And, just seeing his slowly changing perception and how he started to feel better, I mean, it really makes me feel good, because I've already started to do that for myself, even though, of course, I love making things more difficult on myself. It's gotten to a point where I'm starting to see it change him, because he's starting to take steps, and he's actually getting to a point where he's like, I want to go do some schooling. And we're not like teenagers, or we're not fresh out of high school anymore, but it's never too late to start in life whenever you want to change how things feel around you, and to start seeing that you can make progress. you know, you gotta set your goals. I also started something else recently, which I've already mentioned, the agenda and, you know, writing things down. Um, so 3 times a month, my hubby and I will go out and we'll eat dinner. And when we do that, I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, date night. But when we do that, we'll bring, I just realized that I sound like so nonchalant with that. Usually I'm like, yes, date night. But I didn't sound like that just now. So, uh, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to move on from there. What we'll do is we'll bring along some supplies. Usually it's the agenda or maybe a scrap of paper. Usually I prefer it being the agenda because then it's all in one place. I like to bring my highlighters, my pens. I mean, I'll carry the whole office with me if I can. But yeah, that's me. I'm weird. Anyway, you can have your phones or your devices, whatever works for you. What you do is you're going to devote a notebook or an agenda or whatever into sections or add pages that'll serve that way. The first thing you'll do is set goals. I mean, you're going to want to put like your life goals. You're going to want to put down your major milestones that you would like to have achieved. I've got a few. They're not really very many whenever they're written down, and I've got them written in like really short sentences. I'll describe them a little bit more here. I had to jot them down so that I could kind of read them off in order. It is the very tip top of what all you're going to break down later on, and you'll always be able to refer back to it, and it'll always inspire you. So I've got set up my office to be better and more suited for writing. I've got pay off my house ASAP. I've got become an at-home wife while becoming an author, artist, entrepreneur, which, you know, I don't plan on becoming a lazy mooch of a wife. I just want to get to a point where I can start to build a business and be able to, you know, become an author, full-time writing, always throwing stuff out there to inspire other people. Also because I love writing fiction and, I mean, you know, my art. I mean, all of that. That's my passion. I love teaching, I love learning, and I love art and writing. I mean, music too, but hey, that's what YouTube's for. I can add it to that. I don't have to be great, just have to love it. Anyway, let's see, where was I on this little list here? Anyway, one of my other ones is fix my yard and house because, you know, it's an older house, and if you're buying a house, there's always going to be fixer-upper projects. We've got the remodeling, the kitchen, office, other things. Some of it's electrical. My hubby's not really a tools guy. He's a nerdy geek, but he's adorable for it. So ask him anything Star Wars. He loves talking Star Wars. One of the other things I put on there was maybe having a kid in another year or so. And then I've also got writing and maybe more schooling as needed. So, I mean, I don't want to spend like freaking 10 years in college because I don't want to be like 40 something years old or 50 something years old by the time I get out of college and then owe like a crap ton of debt. So a lot of my stuff, I've already know what I want to do, and I can actually streamline what I'm learning into that. You don't have to have a lot of college or a lot of this other stuff because you don't need everything that they teach. Once you know what you need to learn in order to succeed, which mine is business related, I can actually go in and take specific classes that I need. And then once I learn a little bit more, and then, you know, there's all kinds of free resources out there, and then there are a lot of cheap ones as well. They've got Skillshare, they've got YouTube, they've got a lot of other, you know, options as well. So basically that is my life goals. I wrote them down shorter than what I described them here, but that is something I can always flip back to or look at on my agenda, which I carry this little monster around almost everywhere with me. It's got my work stuff in it, so I have to keep track of stuff that way, but I've also got things that will help keep me on track. I do have one page in here that has really short my life goals. That's this right here. This is just an inspirational little quotes crap, but this right here is my life goals. That is something I flip to when I feel like I don't know if I'm really doing what I was set out to do. I don't know if I'm really reaching it. Am I still on track? I'll just kind of glance at that every now and then, and it makes me feel better because I know I am. Um, I have broken a lot of them down into stages elsewhere, but having the simple list, it really helps. I like to put at least 1 or 2 things in there that are easy, which, pay off my house. The next thing that we like to make sure to cover on date night is our top goals for every quarter of the year. Because, the 12 months out of the year, if you don't break them down into sections, then you're going to have a hard time setting your goals, So if you give yourself a time frame to try to achieve everything, it usually will help a lot more. So what I did is I made a bunch of lined sticky notes. I don't know how well that's going to pick it up. Well, I numbered it 1 to 10. I put a colored something or other at the top. I'd use a highlighter after writing something and just kind of color in the top. And then I go 1 through 10, and I would list basically what I wanted to achieve on that quarter. So I would have like install the kitchen tile. Well, I've got that one highlighted off now because it's done. I had shelves built ×1 because, I'd love to get more shelves done, but everything that I want to do, I would rather break certain things down into small projects and then be able to work on my other stuff in between. That way I'm at least getting a little bit of it done, but then I've got my other stuff that's more important that I will extend over the 3 months. I've got like over 10,000 photos of just random crap over the last several years. So I've got a lot of stuff that needed sorted. Got a big old memory disk for like a couple terabytes or whatever. And I started wanting to break those down. And a lot of them got out of order and they got saved on different, memory disks and phones and Facebook and stuff. So some of them are not dated correctly. But I wanted to get those sorted, at least as close as I could to year, because I wanted to try to start making photo books that I can actually flip through at home. And, I wanted them to be big enough to fill my scrapbook books. I've got some empty ones. I wanted to print some pages for that. I've got Photoshop on my computer. Well, with so many photos, I don't want to sit there and go through thousands and thousands of photos and sort them and redate them and kind of stick them in a categorized date folder with a name on it of whatever was going on. Or, I didn't want to just sit there and do that because I've got something else what I want to do. So I set it down to 1,000 pics sorted, 10 photo pages made. And that's one goal. And I'll usually try to do a little bit of that just once every 3 months. Well, I've already got pretty much almost all of them sorted because I got ahead on some of the stuff on like the first week of this quarter. So I didn't really, or actually it was last quarter. I did it the first week of last quarter. I did almost all of them in 1 week. And that was awesome. So I got to mark off the next 3 quarters, which actually frees up. It gave me basically a free slot on my quarter, my top 10 goals for the quarter. I have one is pay 3 extra house payments in a month. The glass doors installed on the cabinets, which I don't know if you saw at all in my other video, but I've got a bunch of shelves here. I got a bunch in the living room, and the ones that I'm building in the kitchen, I'm gonna have to set glass doors and build the frames and everything for too. So that's just something else, but he's actually gonna help me with that, so I'm really happy. I've got brand design. I gotta work on that. I've got editing and writing our goals. So basically the list allows me to start to focus on what I need to get done and what I want to get done, and it allows me to start saying no to the projects that don't really, serve anything. Like I want to go off and do this or go off and do that. Like I might go ahead and dabble in it just for, the spontaneity of it, but it keeps me from just going full nosedive, throwing everything else out the window and getting lost again. Whenever you do your top 10, if you decide to do that, you just throw some stuff on there that's easy that you can achieve no matter what, even if it's still toward your, your main life goals in some way. But also have some on there that you actually have to do, that aren't just automatic repeats. I usually go maybe 2, 3, 4's pushing it. Some of them you can kind of do a little bit of and call it done. You can get ahead and call it done. Just whatever you need to do just to break them down. Now, the third list that I usually do on the, those little sticky notes in the agendas on date night, the third one is just random stuff like call the electrician, which is something I have to do. I've got to get outlets moved. Or like fix the garden hose system, or 25-minute riding sprint, which always turns into a lot longer once I start doing a couple of them. Once I get in the zone, yeah, it goes crazy. I have egg timer that I painted blue to match everything, because blue and teal and all that's my favorite. This little booger, I swear, if you get into a scene and this thing goes off, your heart's about to come out of your chest every time. 3 months is actually quite a bit of time. When you start, you're like, yeah, I got all the time in the world, but then all of a sudden it's gone. But if you try to push really hard the first month, take a break on the second month, and then kind of push hard again on the third month, that seems to help for me. I get that extra little bit of, urgency that I need, and that little bit of extra willpower that I need out of it. Make sure that you have a forgiveness system for yourself, though. You gotta make sure that even if you don't achieve all of your goals, that it's okay. You've got to be able to remind yourself you're okay. You're allowed to rest. You're allowed to not finish. Those can always be carried over as long as you're working on them. And not only that, but as you start seeing the things that you have completed, it feels really nice, because you just start seeing a growing list of accomplishments. And then you realize that you've done a whole hell of a lot. Always look at what you have done and not what you haven't. Just keep telling yourself, one step at a time, one goal, then the next, and then the next. So, occasionally, I look back at the life goals and I'll just be like, that's a lot of crap. I'll start to swell with pride. I mean, like, my office, you guys will never see it, because I don't even know if I have any photos of how it used to be, but it's a tiny room. I mean, it's an almost decent sized bedroom, but it used to just be barely a twin bed in here. So I built the bunk. It used to be a desk bunk. I had a desk underneath. I added the bottom bunk to it, the bottom mattress to it. And over time, because we have tall ceilings, I have just slowly added to it. I got my desk, I got my computers, I got my art stuff, I got my sketch pads, all the stuff that I need, my supplies. I've built shelves over there behind the door. I mean, wasted space of 8 inches behind that door, I swear. And I have so much crap because I go back and forth on using it, and then I'll put it away and use something else. I mean, I bounce back and forth between projects like a mad woman. But I had a lot of stuff, and just throwing it places is kind of hard to find stuff. You end up rebuying things you need, you forget things, some of the paints go bad. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I built a shelf that's not even that wide behind the door over there, and it is amazing. Got a pegboard, hanging paints, got little baskets, got a bunch of crap. I haven't built the caddies for it, but at least it's on a shelf and it looks passable. I'll do other videos on like getting inspired and staying inspired, whatever, later. This one was basically more on the mental, emotional, and physical side. Basically how to help yourself to start reaching higher and continuing to grow and watching yourself grow. I've got other papers, business plans, a crap ton of other things that I keep handy, or that I revise on occasion. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to actually log it all down or write it or whatever, but ultimately it does help me because I stay on track better. And the inspiration that it gives me, it's really well worth it. And I feel like the hard work that I'm putting in is basically paying me back tenfold. If I didn't have all the stuff that I actually organize and write down to do and, break it down into projects, I wouldn't be half as far as I am toward my goal of becoming a self-published author, artist, what I'm aiming at. I've already covered that on my greetings video. Last thing for writers, if you have a written work that's up for free, anywhere like I do, where you wrote for like the joy of it and you loved it, every bit of it, and if you ever start feeling like you're not a good writer, especially like I decided I wanted to rewrite my book, my series. It was a Leviathan series is what I called it. The first book was originally called The Vampire's Memory Keeper, and that's a long story short. I ended up having to rewrite because it wasn't what I intended it to be, and I couldn't get it published because it was too big of a book. There was a lot of things on it that, it's not the normal. Basically, I ended up having to rewrite it several times before that last one that I thought was done, and I couldn't get it published, couldn't get an agent. I had learned a lot about how to write for a commercial audience after that, once I did find out what all was wrong with the book. And then by then, this last time around, I decided I actually wanted to go ahead and self-publish, because the benefits of it, being able to put my own art toward it, being able to merchandise, and actually being able to build it myself, for me, that's more rewarding anyway. And I want to keep growing as a writer, but I don't want someone to rip up my stuff and turn it into something it's not. It already wasn't what I intended it to be. There were way too many female characters. I mean, it was a chick flick and it wasn't supposed to be. So, that was kind of horrifying when I realized that. Where I'm heading with this is, if you ever begin to feel like you're not a good writer, like I did when I realized what all I had done wrong and wanted to rewrite, but wasn't really feeling like I was good enough anymore, keep a log or like a notebook or something, just somewhere that you write down or copy over any of your readers' comments, because I had a lot of readers that I interacted with. I mean, it's not like thousands, but for me it was a lot, and I was growing it, and the little platform that I was building, I was learning a lot of writing friends on that website before I couldn't use it anymore because of life changing and stuff like that took all my time away. Basically, if you keep track of the comments, like where they're like, oh, I love this, or they're getting excited about one of the characters, or angry about one of the ones you want them to get angry about, basically anything that you think was adorable or really inspired you, or you inspired them with, it really will later on, when you feel like you're crap, that you don't do any good, it's really going to help to motivate you. Because the way I looked at it whenever I started doing that was, well, I wrote that piece of crap and people freaking loved it, even though it wasn't perfect. It was not what I wanted it to. I couldn't even get the dang thing published. And I know I write better now, so 2 + 2 = my writing's better, and I'm not a bad writer. So it really helps. I've got a few incomplete stories on Wattpad, and one of them's tips, one of them's, I mean, it's a mess. But I did have 2 complete books that I had rewritten originally, thinking that was gonna be the last version of them before I realized what all was wrong with them. And right now I'm gonna keep the crap versions on there. And I basically right now what I'm getting to do is just say to myself, that piece of frog dookie actually had people who loved it. So I'm good at writing, and I'm passionate about it. I know how I can affect my readers, and if I can do it with that, then the rewrite, the complete revamp of the whole thing, I know it's going to be a lot better. The only thing I gotta work on is the length of my stupid book. Right now it's almost as Stephen King's It length. So, just basically don't give up. Keep your goals in your heart and your mind at all times if you can, and stay inspired. Bye.